A swim jig is one of my favorite baits to throw a lot of the year. Once the water gets above 50, really I have a swim jig tied on most of the time, as long as the water's clear enough to permit it. There's some places it gets really dirty. It's just kind of subtle, not nearly as effective as it is in other places. Anytime there's fairly clear water though, especially if there's vegetation, a swim jig is something that I have on almost all the time. And you know, you get asked a lot, what kind of trailer do you throw? And it really depends on the situation, what color you're throwing, what you're trying to mimic. On a full-size swim jig, like this here, this is a dirty jigs, but a full-size swim jig like this, the two that I throw the most are a swim bait. This is a Z-Man diesel minnow, but a shorter swim bait like this here, I wouldn't put a full-size 5-inch swim bait. I'll even cut this down at times if I want it a little bit smaller. Something when I want a more streamlined profile. If the water's clear, I pretty much always throw a swim bait style trailer. Something that you're going to cause the swim bait or the swim jig to have a little bit of body rock to it. Clear water. It's more of a streamlined minnow-like profile you'll see with the swim bait trailer on there. That's really, when the water's clear, most of the time I'm throwing that. Clear or even when it's warm, and you get in warm water situations, that swim bait trailer is good. The other one, when I want to slow it down a little bit, dirtier water, this is a Z-Man Turbo Craws, twin tails, that style of bait, you're getting double the water resistance there. It displaces more water, the fish can feel it better, but you can also slow your bait down a little bit better. So again, it's a twin tail type trailer that draws a lot of water, and one thing that you ultimately need this for almost all the time, I think, is when you're fishing a swim jig on top. When you're coming up over grass, that bank grass, lily pads, stuff like that, you want to keep your bait up on the top, kind of sizzling along. A bait like that with the twin tails on there, something that's going to disturb a lot of water, holds that bait up towards the surface more. It keeps it up a lot quicker as it's going in and out of the water. More of an illusion to those fish as it's going across the surface. Those two right there, for a full-size swim jig, take me for most everything I need, really. I mean, that takes me pretty much everywhere. Twin tail like that in a swim bait trailer. Again, clear water. I want more speed, really warm water. I'll use that swim bait trailer. It gets a little bit cooler, the water gets more color. Go with some sort of twin tail like the Turbo Craws there. The other swim jig I throw a lot that you see a lot in the Midwest. We're starting to see it a little bit more everywhere else. It started up in Wisconsin. The Mississippi River is a Finesse swim jig. So this here is a lighter wire hook. It's the skirt's cut out in the bottom. It's a more transparent profile. You can see how much you can see through that skirt. So along those same lines, I really use a couple different trailers. One is a grub, pretty old school. You see some of the old swim jiggers, guys like Tom Monsoor, that really made swim jig fishing popular, still throw a grub to this day, gets a lot of bites. You can reel a bait really slow, it's subtle, it doesn't have a lot of kick in the water. It's more of a, like a worm almost type action in the water. That tail's gonna straighten out and just sit there and kind of corkscrew back there. That's something that doesn't get as much notoriety anymore. Still catches a lot of fish. There's a lot of guys that throw a swim jig that catch a lot of fish with a grub on it still. The other one is, again, a swim bait. You can get more body roll out of a swim bait. You can actually get this Finesse swim jig to really turn side to side by putting a swim bait on the back of it. It comes through the water a little bit more aggressively, has a little bit more thump to it, and use it accordingly. It's no different than throwing a spinnerbait with Colorado blades versus double willows. Something's going to have more vibration. A lot of times lower light conditions, dirtier water. I'll throw a swim bait trailer. Something's going to have more vibration, more body roll. You want it more subtle, it slicks off, the water's pretty clear. That grub, I've caught in places like Lake Mead where you can see 20 feet deep. Swimming that grub on a swim jig like that, it's a really subtle, kind of a corkscrew action. But anyway, those are the trailers I prefer for a couple different swim jigs that I throw pretty much all over the country, the Finesse and the full-size swim jig.